Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever thought about those really hidden parts of human connection, the stuff about identity that pops up online, maybe? Well, today we're doing a deep dive. We're looking at some really compelling bits from Euftis Emery's 2025 novella, Black Planet. He actually calls it raw, unpolished, and real, a story about figuring out identity, desire, self-worth,
Hmm.
all kicked off by this one encounter that leads him into, well, a whole virtual world.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here, I think, is how the story just illuminates that very human search for connection,
Yeah.
even in these maybe unconventional digital spaces. So our mission for you listening is really to pull out the key insights. How do
Yeah.
people handle love, lust, validation? Especially now in the digital age, we get to see how these digital masks and that emotional hunger really play out in this specific story.
Exactly. And this deep dive, it's really tailored for you. It's kind of a shortcut to getting informed about all the complex layers in this very unique narrative. Okay, so let's set the scene. We're in Cincinnati. It's fall 2003, a Saturday morning. And we meet Euftis Emery. He's recently separated, and he's just trying to manage a shopping trip to CompUSA with his three young daughters, Saeed, Elise, and Nikki. You can picture the chaos, right? His oldest, Nikki, is being totally antisocial, trying to escape to the car even, and Euftis gives her the daddy look. You know the one, the silent don't test me look. It really sets this relatable, kind of chaotic family tone right off the bat. So right in the middle of all this kid-related chaos, Euftis spots Mia. He uses this specific term, calls her a cute red bone, notes her Erica Badu look, finds her really intriguing, describes her as one of those white-collar sisters that are in the MIS industry or fluent with computers and software. And his interest, well, it's not subtle. It's very clearly sexual.
And boom, right away you see it. This immediate tension, right, between his own desires and his role as dad, because his daughters, they are fiercely loyal to their mom. And they make their disapproval of Mia very clear. It's actually kind of funny, but also poignant. Like the psychiatrist just blurts out, he's ugly about Euftis to Mia, and then almost calls Mia a stank hoe, which, yeah, Euftis shuts down immediately. But that moment really establishes the world he's in, how his public role as the father clashes constantly with his private desires, even just buying computer stuff.
Right. So from that CompUSA scene, we shift gears a bit. We jump to Euftis's professional life. He's visiting Maxim's office. He's clearly a big deal there, the consultant with the highest bill rate, the top dog.
Hmm.
He walks in, and even the receptionist, Anne, doesn't recognize him at first. He's wearing these thugaliciously delicious jeans and boots, not his usual white boy business casual. A real contrast. He interacts with the sales reps, Jim and Matt, and then he asks Matt about Mia, kind of casually, but another rep, Tom, gives him this real funny look. Euftis immediately thinks, oh shit, he's hit it, or wants to. You see how personal interest is already, like weaving into the professional stuff?
Oh, absolutely. And that blurring. It's such a key insight into, well, the information age, isn't it? It just shows how easily personal pursuits can get tangled up with professional networks. All those unspoken things, the subtext driving connections when digital and real world lives overlap so much.
Okay, so then comes the lunch date. Euftis and Mia at Copeland's of New Orleans. And Mia starts opening up. She lives with her parents, saving for LA. She's VP of the Black MBA Association into African art. Euftis mentally takes back a gold star when he hears she lives with her parents. He's quite direct in his judgments sometimes, and he asks her point blank, who are you? Mia's response is playful, but maybe revealing. I'm a recruiter by day and a call girl by night. Just kidding. Then the conversation gets pretty provocative. They talk favorite things. Mia asks his favorite sexual position, and Euftis just answers, straight up, doggy style, dear. No hesitation.
Yeah, but then something interesting happens. Euftis mentions his spider sense tingling. He starts noticing little things. Mia starts acting a bit like wifey poo, he calls it. Like they're already a couple. And this makes him suspicious, so he confronts her. Something's up. If I'm right, will you tell me what it is?
It shows this deeper level of intuition, right? Judging character means looking past the surface, especially when words and actions feel off. And the something that's up, it's pretty unexpected. Mia tells him, go to BP and jump to my page. My user ID is sexy redhead. Now, BP is Black Planet, an online dating site for black folks. Euftis, being newly divorced after 12 years, he had no idea it even existed. But he's intrigued. He's always ready for new realms of interaction to explore.
Okay, but before he dives headfirst into Black Planet, we really need to understand something else about Euftis. His relationship with Coco, it's intense, characterized by this extreme edge play, and it really provides a stark contrast, maybe even a blueprint, for how he approaches things later online. It sets the stage for the kind of self-discovery explored in the novella.
Right. Coco. She's his eternal lover, he calls her. Their thing is these intense edge play games, lots of surprise, extreme experiences.
And just to clarify for listeners, edge play, it's a term from the BDSM community. It's about pushing boundaries of what's usually considered safe, sane, and consensual sex. So naturally, it requires huge amounts of trust, really clear communication, and explicit consent beforehand. For Euftis specifically, his edge play involves something called consensual non-consent play, basically simulating non-consensual acts, but it's all pre-agreed, and also fear play, simulated threats, risks, but within a negotiated, safe framework.
Yeah, and he details this really shocking scenario he calls flip the scene that he plans for Coco. He sets it all up meticulously, grooms himself, makes dinner, Cornish hens, then watches a boxing match, loses $500, and he decides he needs to burn off the negative energy from losing the bet on Coco. So he describes this consensual, non-consent encounter, his sinister plan. An alarm chirps when she comes in. He uses a pillow slip over her head, uses a belt for discipline, resulting in, as the text says, lovely red whelps on her buttocks. And we need to be clear here, this is directly from the fictional source material. We're just relaying the narrative as it's written, not endorsing any of it. The next morning, Coco is understandably distressed. Her boyfriend's been calling. She looks a mess. She says, I look straight up fucked. I smell like you. I'm leaking. You. All down my legs, you ripped the straps on my dress, ripped my panties to shreds. What am I going to do?
Which leads to Euftis proposing this. Well, the text calls it a dastardly plan. He tells Coco to go straight to her boyfriend Clarence's house, looking exactly like she does, ripped dress, marks, snot bubble, crying, and tell him she was raped. His logic. The best lies always incorporate a good deal of truth. Again, just stating what's in the fictional narrative provided, definitely not an endorsement. But it reveals a lot about the character's willingness to manipulate, the extreme power dynamics in the story. It's quite troubling.
So Coco goes through with it. Clarence is angry at first, then concerned, especially after his sister gets involved. Coco describes Clarence then being intimate with her, even while she still smells like Euftis. And her internal thoughts lead her to scream Euftis's name, as she orgasms. And then there's another layer revealed, Coco's own DL, or down low bisexuality, meaning she discreetly engages in same-sex activity. Euftis found an old online profile of hers that revealed this, and this discovery eventually leads them to agree to, in their words, start sharing these bitches.
Yeah, this whole sequence, it really brings up huge questions, doesn't it? About transparency, about consent within these very specific negotiated dynamics. If you connect it to the bigger picture, it forces you to think about the sheer complexity of private arrangements between consenting adults. How much is ever truly known or understood, even between the people involved?
Right. So, after all that with Coco, Euftis finally checks out Mia's Black Planet profile. He sees she's listed as bisexual, but he gets this feeling of confusion from it. He feels like her words didn't match her actions. Then he visits her house, and his suspicions intensify. He perceives her energy, her aura, as just negative. The blackness of the void, he calls it. He decides she's a clever facade, a trap laid by a vile predator. And then things get really disturbing during an interaction with Mia and her young son, Tyree. Mia repeatedly says shocking homophobic things about her own 4-year-old son, declares he is going to grow up to be a faggot.
Yeah.
Euftis is internally revolted, thinks she is a fucking monster. Now, the source material is very explicit here, stating his revulsion comes from his own belief that single women, especially gay or bi women, shouldn't raise boys. So again, just reporting the character's view from the source, not endorsing it in any way.
And that moment is so sharp, isn't it? It shows how deeply held personal beliefs, even ones we might find controversial or, frankly, biased, just profoundly shape how we see and react to people. It highlights those unspoken biases that color our judgments, sometimes in ways that might seem hypocritical or just plain wrong to someone else looking in.
Exactly. After that, Mia's whole demeanor flips. She becomes combative and borderline hostile. Her true nature, as Euftis sees it, comes out. A bully looking for a very specific type of partner, a cuckold. So Euftis decides he's going to mess with her head, fuck with her head, as he puts it. He tells her in graphic detail about his edge play with Coco. He even shows Mia a video of him and Coco having sex doggy style, basically to prove his sexual dominance and just shock her. Then Mia hits him with her proposal. The audacity, Euftis calls it. She wants a relationship where she can sleep with 3 of her female friends. Euftis can watch, but he can't touch any of them. And she demands total exclusivity from him while she keeps her girlfriends.
Wow. I mean, connecting that to the bigger picture, that scenario really throws the extremes of control and negotiation in some relationships into sharp relief, doesn't it? And it also exposes those deep-seated biases some people hold about power, sexuality, what's allowed. It makes you ask, well, what does define a fair or healthy dynamic when desires clash so dramatically, especially when one person wants such rigid control?
Yeah, Euftis isn't having any of it. His rejection is absolute. He concludes Mia is gay, just looking for a professional heterosexual front and a living dildo. He states very clearly he did not like her as a person, says he couldn't have sex with a person without finding something redeeming about them as a human being, and then he just leaves abruptly. But despite that really negative experience with Mia, the online world still intrigues him. Black Planet still holds some appeal, so he decides to create his own profile. A super freak, one named Getapinya, complete with pimpalicious pictures and explicit poems. And this quickly leads to his next online encounter, Adia. Described as a gorgeous down-low freak from Indianapolis. Their first phone call is pretty funny, actually. Adia initially denies even knowing a Getapinya because the username is so explicit. She's trying to keep up her down-low image. But eventually she admits his voice just drew her in. That's why she actually picked up and talked to him. Then Adia puts him through this test, calls it the Are You Qualified test. She challenges his oral sex skills, like really specifically. Defining indicators of a woman who really loves receiving oral sex eyes rolling back like she's possessed, holding him down until he finishes. Very graphic.
And this part really dives into that very specific, sometimes almost performative side of online sexual identity. How people communicate, how they vet each other. It's incredibly detailed, almost like a job interview. But yeah, it shows how much people might share or demand up front online to find exactly what they're looking for.
The vetting doesn't stop there. It moves to a webcam session. Adia's naked. She tells Euftis to use a number 2 pencil to measure his penis, which he calls Sergio. And then Adia apparently goes through this collection of about 20 synthetic penises, dildos, trying to find one that matches Sergio's size based on the pencil measurement. She finds one, uses it, has multiple orgasms, and declares Euftis qualified to get this pussy. And the segment ends pretty simply. Adia and I soon became very good friends, and I helped her hit all her spots in person.
Yeah, what's really striking there is how that online space enabled such a precise, detailed, almost technical form of vetting and connection, which then led directly to a real-world relationship. It poses a big question for us, right? How exactly do these digital interactions, these online negotiations, end up shaping or defining the actual physical intimacy later on? What kinds of connections become possible when those traditional social barriers are down?
So when you look at the whole picture, Black Planet isn't just, a collection of explicit stories. It really feels like a mirror, held up to how people navigate all that stuff. Lust, heartbreak, finding a new self online, maybe a digital rebirth, finding themselves through all the shifting identities, taboo temptations, and unspoken truths.
Absolutely. The novella powerfully shows how that fundamental human drive, that hunger for connection, validation, power, and intimacy, it still burns strong in all of us, whether it's playing out in messy, raw, real-life moments or, behind these carefully built digital masks. It's that enduring need for connection, however strange the path might seem sometimes.
Yeah. And Euftis Emery actually closes the novella with a question. He asks, what's your screen name? And for you, listening, after diving into these really unfiltered stories, it does make you wonder, doesn't it? What surprising parts of yourself, what hidden facets might you discover when that screen lights up? And maybe, just maybe, the guard comes down.